Oh, gosh. We need this food. I think that's what Jeff is looking for. You looking for this for me?
Yes. It is not in there either. So I think we can either. I think if you just call the order as normal. And take attendance by roll. Feel like that's kind of the main point.
Okay,
We'll make it work.
okay.
It's not like it's a select board meeting or anything. You know, it's-
Crack has quorum.
Hey, guys, good thing, yeah. We definitely do too. So.
See ya. Okay, it is.
Yeah.
It is Monday, March 18th, and my name is Phil Smith. I am the vice chair filling in for Linda Williams, who may be coming. I'm not sure. Or is Linda on Zoom? No, okay, so I will call the meeting to order at 1:03 PM. This is a Zoom meeting. I do not have the script that usually is in the room. But we will be doing a roll call with the members by name, and as usual, we ask that the comments and discussion be routed through the chair. And so we have some representatives from the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee. And perhaps they could introduce themselves, but let's take the roll call first.
Yep, and then I think they have enough, they're gonna have to call to order as well and take a roll vote, take a roll too.
So there'll be two meetings at the same.
Two meetings at the same time. You just get to do all of the legwork and lead up both. at the same
Okay, okay, so the first, let me take a roll call of the voting members. Jesse? Is Jesse there?
Yeah.
No, okay. Dave Franzuto,
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Okay. Emily Molden,
Here.
Roberto? Now, I guess Roberto, they just had the baby, so I
Yep,
guess
he's on paternity.
he's on paternity leave. Samantha,
Here.
Peter Brace is here in person. Linda Williams is not here. Seth, are you here?
Here.
Yeah, okay. Is there anybody that I'm missing? Okay, regarding, I'm sorry?
Hold on, sorry. I'm here, Abby De Molina. I'm sorry, I don't think you called me. I just joined the audio, so that's why. I
Okay,
just caught the tail end.
Abby, we haven't opened the crack meeting
We're,
yet. That's
yeah,
next.
okay, and I
Oh,
should just,
sorry.
I should just get the folks who are with the UMass Boston and our other advisors. I have Jeff Carlson,
There,
Jack,
Here.
Dak,
Here. Oh, Dak, sorry. Here.
um, Kristen,
Here.
Alan,
Here.
Hotels, Tara Riley,
Here.
Kim, I think Kim is here, right?
Kim, yes, I'm here, and I believe Linda texted me that she is on the way.
Oh, good. Okay, Steve? No, Steve? Shannon?
I'm here.
And is there anybody else that I'm missing?
I think we're good.
Okay, so
Hi,
now,
Oh, pardon me, I'm Allison Novelli. I'm also from the Urban Harbors Institute.
oh, Allison, okay. Okay, so now I guess the people from, we call it crack. You wanna
We
call
love
your,
it, we love it so much.
you wanna call your committee to order, or how do you wanna do this?
Yes, Peter
Sure.
will do it.
I am Peter Brace. I'm the chairman of the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee. Permit me to call this meeting of the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee, a meeting to order March 18th, 2024 by roll call vote. Christy Kickham,
Here.
Abby D. Molina,
Here.
Sarah Boyce,
Here.
Tim Brain,
Here.
and Doug Rose.
Here.
Just six of them, barely a quorum.
Gary?
Oh, sorry,
Beller.
and Gary Beller?
Here.
Okay. That's it. Okay, go ahead, Phil.
Okay, the next, item, is the approval of the, agenda. The agenda was sent out by, Kim, last week. And so, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And second, I'll second it. So this is voting on the approval of the agenda. Dave Franzuto,
Aye.
Steve Lineback,
Aye.
Emily Molden,
Aye.
Samantha,
Aye.
Peter Brace,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, now we go. Now we go to the approval of the minutes, and these are minutes. I'm sorry, what's going on here? This is the approval of the minutes for, the Nantucket, and Mattocket Harbor Plan, committee meeting, for March 4th and, July 24th that Peter Brace sent out about 3 days ago. Do I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Okay, that was, so moved by,
Steve.
that's Steve? Okay, and, second?
Second.
Okay, who seconded the Seth?
Seth.
Okay, so, approval of the minutes as written, Dave Franzuto,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Samantha,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
and the vice chair votes aye. Linda Williams, the chair, has arrived, so
I'm gonna have a hard time seeing that.
we'll turn it over to her. We just approved the agenda and we just approved the minutes.
And you read the speech?
No, because
We don't have it.
we don't have it. But I summarized it
Good, that's
in
good enough.
10 words.
Good enough.
And so anyhow,
We covered the
Oh,
important
they actually
parts.
leave one on the table.
No, they're both gone.
They're both gone.
Yeah.
I have my own.
okay, so anyhow, Linda Williams is taking over as chair of this meeting. And the next item on the agenda is to welcome CRAC, the
All right, tell me
Coastal
first, Phil.
Resiliency Advisory Committee.
Who's up there? Emily's up there.
Why don't
Seth?
you guys switch spots so you can be closer?
No, I just need to,
Emily, Seth, Samantha,
yep.
Dave, and
Dave.
Steve.
The only person we don't have, the regular voting
Jesse.
member is Jesse.
Okay. And Phil is in the room. W. Pitter. Okay. Ready to roll. So harbor plan update. Committee? Why is that on there? We
Because this
are
is-
the committee?
Yeah, that's the committee that we're here to do.
Okay, because normally I don't see it in the agenda.
So we're welcoming Crack.
I got correct. And how many members do you guys have?
They have called to order as well.
Okay,
That's
so we've
7,
called to
I
order.
think.
Okay. Ready to roll then. Approval of the agenda
We did that
Already
already?
that,
We did,
and approval of the minutes.
we did that.
My only question, Peter, your emails always bounce back to me. After I apply to your email, it always bounces back to me, so I have no way of getting an email to you. I had 2 Marches and 2 Julys on my attachments. Did I miss something?
So I always send it in
2 different
Word.
ways?
Yeah, I always send it in Word
Okay,
and and PDFs. The situation we ran into on Shab, that some people they don't have Word, so PDF is universal, so we will send both.
yeah, it depends on what kind of computer they were, what program they're
Right,
working with.
so,
So we accepted the minutes without any changes.
Yeah, they were very well written as usual, Mr. Writer.
Yeah.
Welcome to
Thank you.
Crack. Okay, who do you have here from Crack?
you got Christie Kickham,
Yep,
you have me,
yep,
you got, person in the corner right there, Abby De Molina, and it's Abby and then,
Abby.
DE and then space and then MOLINA.
Yeah.
You have Sarah Boyce, and that's
Okay.
BOIS.
Yes, yep.
You have Tim Brain,
Oh, Tim's on.
you know, he's Concom rep.
Cool, that's right.
You have at-large member Doug Rose,
Okay.
and we have Gary Beller of the Brant Point Association.
No,
BELL.
I'm from the advisory committee for non-voting taxpayers.
Right,
I do happen to live in Brant Point, of course, but
Oh, good. That's great. Yep, almost outnumber us. Okay, so then welcome to Crack and discuss the issues and recommendations on coastal resiliency as they may affect our harbor plan update. Who wants to start with this?
Now, do the Crack people have what was sent out?
Yes,
Tim, do they have that?
yes, they should. Does anybody not have it?
I emailed it to everyone.
Okay,
in the packet.
And maybe Kim, can you put it up so that we can all see it? I don't think we need to all see each other's.
And follow along. I
Uh,
have a hard copy.
We should just let Kim take it for a minute.
Yeah.
She's gonna do most of the driving here.
okay.
sounds good. Thanks, everyone. And thank you to Crack for having us last week and coming to this meeting. So during this meeting, we're really focusing on the coastal resiliency section of the plan. And coastal resiliency specifically wasn't really addressed in the 2009 plan. So this is really going to be a new section. There obviously were some bits and pieces of coastal resiliency, but there wasn't this big section that was specifically devoted to coastal resiliency. So we're gonna, like we've done with other, other sections, we're gonna walk through this table, which Alan's actually gonna lead us through. And we'd be looking for feedback from you all, from both Crack and the Harbor Committee, and maybe some discussion between you two on some of these items. Really, this is looking at coastal resiliency related to infrastructure. Obviously, climate change and coastal resiliency will affect things like natural resources or, water quality. And those specific types of things will be included in the natural resources section or the water quality section. This is more related to infrastructure. Let's see. Just in terms of where we're at, just a quick note. We are continuing to go through these sections. We have public access to still come up, and then water quality and boating, dredging, and navigation. So we're getting pretty close to getting through the slog of sections. So thank you guys all for your help with that. And you might get emails from us for instance, I did natural resources and already got a lot of my feedback a month or two ago. So you might actually see some drafts coming your way just to have a little preliminary view of the section and try to get some initial feedback from committee members. If you don't get a section, don't worry, there'll be plenty of time for comments on all of it. But just a heads up, you might get an email from us. And then one final thing is we wanted to end this conversation around 2:15, 2:20-ish, as Emily wanted to talk a little bit about an eelgrass management plan. So just keep that on the radar. Any questions on any of that, or should Alan take the wheel here?
Well, here's a question, Kim. I noticed some people have notes on what we did send to members of CRAC. Would it be more advantageous to go through their comments first?
Sure, I haven't, I don't believe I've seen the comments, so I maybe somebody that's seen the comments, if they think it would be useful to start with those.
You have a lot of comments.
I'm the staff, so.
I know, you've got a lot.
Are you talking about the
No.
comments that are at the bottom of the
matrix.
PDF?
Yeah, I mean,
That was all collected from the interviews and surveys and
yeah, but I didn't know if any, once they saw this section individually, did any members of CRAC have any comments right off the bat?
okay.
No. That's
Okay,
just one member though.
Christie said no. Anybody else up there?
Okay, something to say.
Kim, if you could,
You could line them up on the right instead of the block. It's sort of, I can't see anybody. No, up and down on the right-hand margin. No, that's not how,
This?
yeah. Well, it's a gallery view normally, but not that big.
if you go to the view or,
Go to the view and go gallery view.
So this is the gallery view. I'm happy to make it bigger.
No, no.
So this is what is selected. This is the gallery view.
All right,
I
I'm
can
missing
go
everybody else.
To double? Well, it's because the window is just small. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of
Yeah, I
people.
know.
It's gonna
That
show
works.
4 at a time. If
All right.
someone raises their hand, they
It'll
will
pop
appear
up.
in the view.
Okay, all
well,
right.
Kim, if you could explain to my board, our committee, how the harbor plan how we are proceeding, as we go through and,
Mhm.
and explain how that works, maybe they'll
Yep.
understand better.
Definitely. So what we'll do, since Alan really, so Alan that works with us at Urban Harbors Institute, he was the main driving force behind this section. What he'll do is talk about first an issue that's over here in the left-handed column. So an issue that came up through either our public survey, through interviews, through conversations with the committee. So first we'll do an issue, and then we'll move over to the right-handed side where we have suggested solutions and recommendations. And he'll quickly walk us through what some potential solutions or recommendations are that have come up. And once he's done walking us through one row specifically, then we'll open it up for comments, feedback, and you all can watch me type and hopefully not misspell everything as I try to get your comments right.
Yeah, we take notes on every single section and add them in, and then, it's fixed later on and put into a form that we can all read.
So does CRAC understand that? That they're just they're telling us what they think this should be, and then you put up your hand, use the raise hand feature and say, I want to add this.
Yep.
I want to add something. Nothing is going to be stupid. It's whatever you think. It all helps.
Yeah, nothing's off the table. So if you think
Definitely.
this isn't written correctly, or we need to wordsmith it, or there's something completely missing from these sections,
Mhm.
throw them in there, because we'll get to a draft and then we'll go back after everybody.
And real quickly, if people are looking for raise hand, it's under the reactions button. For raise hand.
Okay, roll.
And I'll try to keep track of if people are raising their hand. And one other thing to note is just right now, this is all very much a draft document. So things might not be written perfectly. You will have another chance to review all of this. And so if you're looking at a recommendation and you think, oh, that sounds right, but it's just written poorly, like we'll work on the writing for it.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll pick it up, and again, thank you everyone. So so like Kim said, one of the first issues come from derived from public comment. The public really wants to ensure that the harbor plan and the coastal resilience plan are aligned, that there's cohesion between plans. And so our first one is to have intercommittee meetings to share objectives, challenges, and project prioritizations. And congratulations, we're doing that right now. So I guess recommendation number one achieved. Another recommendation is to, and through our discussion with CRAC, as the CRP as a living document. So within our harbor plan, we want to highlight living sections of the CRP within the harbor plan, reflecting changing conditions and increasing or reducing risk. In terms of cohesion between plans, we want to work with partners to address identified data or planning gaps, and then multiple studies, either like a groundwater sea level rise modeling, a future wetland development study, research on flood wall locations, a Jackson Point boat ramp study, and more planning for alternative steamship authority locations, and also done a study for an additional in-town boat ramp. Another recommendation is to work with underrepresented communities to address their climate needs and interests related to ecological restoration, coastal resilience, relocation, or climate disruption. And I guess another one is to incentivize the public to consider relocation or retreat within town initiatives. This was a placeholder from a comment made by, I guess, Doug Rose, who's here today. So in terms of kind of cohesion between plans, another thing that I would, I guess, prompt both groups while we're here is, are there things that you would like when we say highlight living sections of the plans, we have the opportunity to either reiterate directly, we have opportunities to point the public who read this harbor plan to sections of the CRP. So if there are any sections that come to mind that are ones that CRAC didn't feel was highlighted initially, or is necessary to be kind of re-highlighted, this is we are also open to, as a person kind of writing this section, happy to include anything that you'd like to reiterate, but also direct to the, of course, more detailed document when necessary as well. So those are just things I'd like the committees to consider. So I guess we're taking comment on this first section, this kind of this cohesion between plans and kind of future and maybe kind of potential future studies that need to be done.
Go ahead.
I've got two comments, but if the committee,
Identify yourself for them.
I'm Leah Hill, the Coastal Resilience Coordinator for the town of Nantucket. Do you want me to go
Yeah,
first,
go
Peter, or
ahead.
do you want
Go
to?
ahead.
Okay, so I know that you have a plan for alternative steamship authority location. I would also add in there cohesion between the town and the steamship authority on the steamship authority's resilience planning that they're hoping to undertake within the next year. And then I don't know if it's in this section, or a different section, but the potential to hire more project managers within the town. For example, within the coastal resilience plan, there's 19 recommendations that are recommended between now and 2030. So that's a lot of potential projects. So I thought that should be highlighted as well.
Can we have that plan emailed back to us?
Sure. Yes.
Because that'll help us also, if we can see ours next to yours.
We'll probably have to send it as a link.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's on the
that's
town
fine.
website, but I'll send.
Yeah,
it
if you
to
send the link to Jeff,
Okay.
Jeff will send it out to us. I
There
think
should also
that'll
be a list of projects maybe at the bottom of this document with that were within the harbor plan boundaries, as well as with Leah's list with the updates that Leah sent. So I don't know if those are the projects you're referring to, Leah, but we do have that in this document as well.
as an addendum. Okay. You got more?
Nope, that's it for that section.
Okay. I'm looking at the notes. She's got notes here.
Can I
I
tack
see
on?
Holly has a comment.
Who does? Holly. Oh, Holly's here. Good. Okay.
Thank
Go
you,
with it.
Madam Chair. Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes,
Awesome. Thank you for, first of all, for the invite, Holly Backus, Preservation Planner, Local Hazard Mitigation Plan Coordinator for the town. I haven't been to a CRAC meeting in a while. I apologize, but just want to thank you all for everything you're doing and thank Leah for the great work she's doing. I wanted to just mention, not only do we have our adopted CRP, but also we have the always updated HMP hazard mitigation plan, and we are also an MVP community with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the municipal vulnerability preparedness, which will also be updated. So as far as general issues, I would also encourage making sure that there's cohesion between what we get approved at the state and federal level, as well as our local plans. And as a planner, I'd be remiss if I didn't outline that. And as far as a suggested solution, something that Vince and I have always talked about and encouraged is additional green infrastructure initiatives within the town, especially along the harbor. And then one other ongoing, forever seeing, which I'm very happy to mention about, is our Resilient Nantucket Design Guidelines, which is something that the HDC has adopted. We're pretty much the first historic district in the country to adopt basically design guidelines that align with the Secretary of Interior standards for flooding and adaptation, which were actually created in joint partnership with FEMA. So I think that's something just to be poignant in the overall planning initiative. So thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Holly, can you send, I've seen some of it obviously with you, but can you send whatever documentation you have to Jeff and he'll send it out to us?
Yes, ma'am, I can do that.
Thank you. And I know, just to back up, because I've had to deal with it with Holly, with the resilient design guidelines. It has to do with structures that are along, flood zones, et cetera, and how many high out of the ground they have to come. If you have to meet FEMA standards, then you have to meet HCC standards. And it's a very tricky thing to meet without causing some anomaly in an historic structure. There are certain waivers, but we're running into this in Newport, which you're probably aware of. They've got moats around some of those houses down there on the water. So I think we're headed this direction, but I think Holly's information will be very educational for everybody.
I think Doug had his hand up as well.
Who does?
Doug did.
Okay, Doug, do you have something to say?
Yeah, maybe just to chime in a little bit and break the ice from the crack side with an invitation for you guys to be not looking at the CRP as a unchangeable and perfect document. By no means is it perfect, nor is it fully comprehensive. And I think everybody on crack would look at the work you guys are doing as potentially additive to what's in the CRP. One thing that caught my eye under this category of general issues, there's a comment in here about need groundwater SLR modeling. And I just did a quick search of the CRP, and I know there's a discussion about groundwater, obviously, as an issue, but I don't recall there being any projects related to modeling of groundwater rise. And, Leah or anyone else on crack that might know otherwise, please correct me. But I thought that would be an interesting additive element to the CRP, is to do as much effort to model groundwater rise as has been done with sea level rise. But that's it. Thanks.
Jeff?
Just so for anyone that doesn't know, that's a project, the groundwater sea level rise modeling project is a project that Wanakama Water has been engaged with for quite some time. I'm not sure that it's ready for publication, but it is a project that is underway.
Great. Abby?
Hi, thank you. Linda and everyone, thanks for having me. I was just gonna reiterate what someone just said about groundwater. I know that also I heard Holly talking. We had, this past summer, had some discussions that we were looking to also kind of plug in with measuring groundwater and looking to see if we could look at those levels in the line of historic preservation as well. So I think that we're just looking to kind of like further partner on some of those initiatives for the groundwater and understanding how that would work for historic preservation as well. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Great. Is there another hand up, Jeff?
I'll put my hand up
Peter's hand's up.
before I forget. So in line with what Leah said about making everything work with the Steamship Authority, and they're gonna get going in their planning, we shouldn't, I think, leave out the Highline dock,
NIR.
and NIR came to our board to crack last year or the year before, to sort of tell us what they were thinking about for a plan. It's, from what I know, they don't really have a plan yet, and I think that maybe I don't know how this works with the harbor plan, but they need to have a plan. They need to be in sync with us with both of these plans. I don't know how to word that, but they need to, someone needs to reach out to them to see where they are, because we all know what the tides are when, the water comes up and submerges the finger piers, and what's that gonna do to their ability to, bring the boat in there at high tide. It might be the boat on the wharf, and then there's Freedom Cruise Lines as well. They should be involved. I think all the ferry companies should be worked into this. I'm being pretty vague there, but I guess I'm just saying, that I'm saying it to say it so that you don't forget about them.
And I know they rebuilt both bulkheads. Bill,
I just would add, that Nantucket Yacht Club has formed a separate committee looking at coastal resiliency. So this is something that I know they feel has to be in coordination with the Steamship Authority for obvious reasons. But anyhow, I think it's interesting. We maybe keep track of all of these organizations that are, have this on their radar now in a formal way,
yeah, we need.
not
to
just talking about it.
We need to reach out to NIR. I'm in constant contact with those guys, but we need to reach out to NIR. Highline is sort of held hostage by NIR because they own everything. And Nantucket Yacht Club, and what about Great Harbor?
I know they have a working group where they talk about their facility and how it's gonna change.
I have not heard about Great Harbor, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I have a contact there, I can check.
And
I
what
think
about the
they've been
Coast
working
Guard?
on a
Yeah.
plan with them.
What about the Coast Guard? They're in, readjusting their, what is it, the fuel dock over there?
Yes,
Cause it keeps getting flooded.
yes.
So I know the Coast Guard's dealing with their issues with this as well, and they get hit first coming in from the northeast.
I guess the point is that Crack maybe would wanna be the coordinator for all of these and just be in touch with everybody, because so people aren't going in all different kinds of directions and without some coordination.
Yeah,
To those ends, I think it's something that we've talked about at the committee level a little bit, is how, when the harbor plan goes to implementation, I wonder if it would make sense if one of the seats would definitely remain a member of CRAC on the implementation committee,
absolutely.
just so they can tie into this section specifically, but the other ones that come up.
Absolutely. I do think we need to reach out, though, to find out what's going on with these other 5 groups. If there's something we have to add into our plan that we're not aware of, them not sure that they're all talking to each other either. So CRAC can do it from their point of view, but there may be other stuff along the harbor side for our harbor plan that these 5 entities might want us to put in there, particularly the Coast Guard. So I think we ought to reach out to them, maybe have them come for a 15-minute sit down as we move through these sections. Or at the end of our little go through the first time, start asking these groups, because we've been talking to the public. But we haven't talked to the groups that are most affected by this.
When you say groups, you're talking about the other ferry companies and the yacht club.
The
and
yacht
Coast Guard.
club, yacht club, the Coast Guard, NIR, Highland, that kind of stuff. I think we should have a
I
little
would
sit down
make
with
sure-
all those guys at the
We
end.
also add Vatican Marine to that list.
Yeah, Matticat Marine.
And so when you reach out to them, keep in mind, when we get the information from them, keep in mind how far out they're looking for what their plans are, because the harbor plan is 5 to 10 years, and then we're doing another one. And the coastal resilience plan it goes decades in advance, so you have to make sure you plug in the right time frame for, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It'd be good to know what they have to say about this stuff. They're all affected by the harbors.
I was gonna say, you raise a really good point in that I think, it's a whole separate document. And I think it would be a good idea to kind of keep track of all these, harbor abutting.
What are they
harbor-
doing?
Yeah, but I mean, also, but tracking their progress.
I mean,
In making sure that they have, all the, documentation
Yeah,
that's being provided. But I think to track their progress, to make sure they're doing their due diligence also, would be sort of a good document to have.
I also think that if you guys weren't aware that the yacht club is actively doing this, they should probably, I'll make them aware of that, but the fact is you don't want them running off and doing stuff that's already been done,
Or that's that's,
or that doesn't
it
tie in
doesn't
with anything
tie in with
else.
what we're doing.
So I'll pass that word on to the yacht club.
I'll talk to NIR.
the yacht club came before us and they gave a presentation, as did, the boat basin. So maybe,
Okay,
maybe it's another, maybe we need to have them come before crack and update us and say, where are you? And,
Okay.
And we need to hear from them.
but it should be in, speaking to Kim and Alan and, the UHI crew, it should be a line in there, that goes into the plan where we're constantly we're periodically checking in with these groups, with these entities, to see where they are with their plans, and have they written their plans, and if so, then what's the next stage? Keeping tabs on them. Because this will be one of these recommendations that will probably continue into the next iteration of the harbor plan, the next time it's updated.
Well, the minute they hit the water, they're in our jurisdiction, the town's jurisdiction. So if they're doing something at the yacht club that doesn't quite work with what our objectives are, or it's not the best thing to be done, we need to know that.
That's why we won't have them come back.
I just wanted to point out too that the yacht club, NIR and some of the other organizations fall within one of the large recommendations within the CRP, which is the downtown neighborhood flood barrier. So it's not something in the water, it's on land. It essentially goes from Children's Beach down to Washington Street. And the concept is, raising the bulkheads, creating a dune system at Children's Beach, and kind of going, out of town that way. So communication with the yacht club and the other organizations is really imperative for that project.
Unfortunately, the bulkheads along Easton Street and Hulbert Avenue are private property. And the water, I know where the water comes in, it comes in through one of my clients. Because the only one next to Children's Beach that does not have a bulkhead, it's buried. So all the water comes down and goes right into Easton Street, right through that property. And we all know what that property is, so I think there's an issue with protecting the historic structures as well as protecting Grant Point and everything else. Dave,
You get Sarah ahead.
was Sarah up there? All right, let Sarah go first.
Yeah, thank you. I guess what I was going to say when I raised my hand was basically backing up what Leah just said, is that, when we created the CRP, it's supposed to be a document that people come to. So when we do the publicity of all the different things that the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee is doing and the CRP and the output, it's not that we are to go to every single group and every single homeowner and tell them what to do. We provide the resource and they use it obviously for whatever their plan is. We hope that we can be a continued resource. So I think I don't see, and I'm only one member of the crack. I don't see our job as being major oversight over all these different groups. I think we can provide information and help people, but I don't think our job is to quote unquote make sure everyone's doing the right thing. I think we provide the information possible. And we, as Peter said, we know the different groups. We work with the Great Harbor Yacht Club. We've worked with the Nantucket Yacht Club. And I think what I'd be interested to hear is if you all think there are other ways that we can be communicating this information, then that's great, because we're trying to do a lot of new communication. But I think as an advisory committee to the select board, I think it would be really difficult for us to spend all of our time going to all these different groups to make sure that we talk to them. And if we hope that they come and talk to us, I guess is what I'm thinking, and we make the resources available.
I think the issue with us is that we want to make sure if they're doing something that's we need to put in a plan, I want to make sure we don't miss somebody. Dave, and then Emily.
Yep.
And Steve.
If I may, I can suggest a way that we can do some of this. If Kristen and Kim contact these people that we're talking about, the Coast Guard, the ferry companies, the yacht clubs, everybody that we've talked about, and explain that the Harbor Plan Update Committee is working on this and they need to be a part of this. But if it comes from Urban Harbors, then we gain traction without each of us going to whoever we think is should be involved. But Kim or Kristen, is that something that makes sense to you two?
Hi, Dave, it's Kristen. Yep. That, and I'm taking notes over here, which is why my video is off, but I have a note to UHI to make sure that we reach out to all these people. So yes, it's on our discussion list for our next internal check-in. I think it's a great idea as a start, at least in the plan, to document what's going on and to talk to them about how they'd like to coordinate moving forward.
Right. And you know, just a quick synopsis of what we're trying to do, where we are in the process, and why it's important for them to be involved to move their initiatives forward. If it's identified in the plan, that can only help them moving forward. But I think that might be the way to do this with these different entities.
Yeah, unless anyone objects, we'd be happy to do that.
Thank
We
you.
can give you all the entities if you don't have it. Emily?
Thank you. Yeah, I think just to clarify, I kind of see a couple of different matters here being discussed. One is absolutely, I think that all these groups should be made aware of and invited to participate in the Harbor Plan update that we're working on. I think it's a little bit of a separate matter where I think Peter was going with his recommendation, and sort of in response to Sarah as well from CRAC's perspective, the future coordination with all of the waterfront property owners. And I think that whether or not it goes under cohesion between plans in this first section or somewhere else, I think that's an important recommendation for us to make, that maybe is something that should be made for the town to just oversee and continue to incorporate them, as Leah said, in project related activities as needed, or any other future planning. I mean, I think that's a general recommendation that we should certainly have for that future coordination moving forward as well.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This may be a little simplistic, but I'm not sure if it's been mentioned in the notes, but it's somewhere in our final plan, we should certainly have a link to the coastal resilience plan. And I don't think we've included that here, but I think that should be part of our plan submission. Thank you.
And I think earlier somebody mentioned the fact that if there was a more detailed explanation in the CRP, that in the harbor plan, it's noted to go to the CRP for a more descriptive explanation, as opposed to incorporating CRP in here. We'd send them over there. We'd note it in our plan and send them to that plan if necessary. Is that pretty much where we were before? Yeah, that's what somebody mentioned that. Oh, Jeff, you mentioned that, or Chrissy mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
Yeah. Kristen, your hand's still up?
Yep, I had a follow-up question just in terms of the people we should be talking to. I think largely what's been listed are the boating facilities, you know, the yacht clubs, the steamship authority, Highline. To what extent do you want us to engage all private property owners on the waterfront, recognizing that they're all going to be doing something about resiliency, or should be doing something about resiliency? How broadly do you want us to cast that net?
I don't think right now we want to talk to any of the private homeowners. I think that's a Herculean task.
Well, I think you could.
At the moment.
Sorry to cut you
Go
off.
ahead.
I think you could narrow it down to the ones that have structures. You have the two people that have the piers in Monomoy. We've got the
Culvert and
you get the
Easton.
bulkheads at Pimney's Point and Abrams Point.
Yeah.
Then there's the guy who has the pier way up at 82, 84 Walwinet Road. Then there's the Walwinet that has the temporary pier, but they have their float on the beach.
Yeah.
So,
And then there are piers in Hulbert and Eastern.
and then like Connecticut Marine too, but so all the private property owners and marine structures who are grandfathered and can repair them as needed, that would narrow it down.
Oh, yeah, and, Washington Street, the, Delafanos group there, they just redid their bulkhead. The, condos
Yeah.
right next to Francis Street, the condos also. I have a couple of clients in there. I have some contact with a homeowner association. Phil?
Maybe a more efficient way of doing this for the homeowners is through, I guess, Peter Morrison's organization, all of the various groups around the island, the little neighborhoods.
The area associations.
Yeah, I mean, that
Grand
would
Point
be,
Area Association.
that would be, I would think that would be the way, rather than us having to pick it off one at a time. Just, go to, I don't know if Peter Morrison is still running it, but essentially
Yes,
go to him and
yes.
say, hey.
Through the
this is, you know,
civic,
what
through the
we're
civic
doing,
league.
Yeah, the Grand Point Association, we did do, because I wrote it, because I was the chairman of it, we did do an area plan for the Grand Point Association. And it sort of started to address some of this issue, but that's about probably 7 or 8 years old now, and things have changed radically. So there is a point of contact for the Grand Point Association. There is no association for Washington Street or anything there. There is a quasi in Matt and Walwin, but nothing is formal along the waterfront, actually, except for the Grand Point Association.
Sarah.
Who's up there?
Sarah.
Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. Just, I have a point of clarification or a question for myself since I'm new to this committee is, when you are seeking, different waterfront homeowners or property owners or businesses to talk to, do you have a list of questions you're talking to, or what's the goal of talking to them? Because I think that helps both narrow down who you're targeting. Or do you have specific things that you're giving them that you're asking for input, or are you just hoping that they participate in the process? Because I think the more targeted you can be, the better. Like CRAC has gone, we just did a survey of the that Leah had sent to the Civic League, and that was really great to have like input. But I think it's really important to know what you're going to say and what the target is before we ask people for their time. We want people to be involved, but if we tell them how they can be involved, that's the best. But maybe you guys already have a list of like what your targeted questions are.
Well, I can just answer that,
That's a good
Sarah.
point.
We did an online survey that went all the way through September, where we got more than 500 responses. And we set up one-on-one interviews with identified stakeholders and anybody who came forward and wanted to be interviewed and add information. We had our public information input session in June, and then another one in August where there were 2 meetings that day, one at Great Harbor Yacht Club and one at the Admiralty Club. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Getting at?
Yeah, it's fine that there's meetings. I just like what input are you trying to seek, I guess is what my question was for the harbor plan. Are you seeking particular input? Like if you have a list of questions that you want, like if you go to the yacht club and if you go to the NIR or the other groups you're talking about, and you're trying to, it sounds like you're identifying stakeholder groups right now in the waterfront area. And I'm just curious, what is the input that you're seeking from them?
Well, we're asking them what they have plans for, first off, hold on.
Yeah, sure.
We're asking them, what are they doing vis-a-vis coastal resiliency? I think that's what we're advancing to them first. Steve had his hand up and then Dave.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I disagree with going to speak to private homeowners at this point to get their input or anything else. They've had their chance for their input.
Definitely.
And I think we're past that point. And if we start doing that, we're going backwards and we're not going forward.
Definitely.
That's all.
That's the point I was gonna make also. We started this conversation with major stakeholders like NIR, Steamship, Highline, Coast Guard, yacht clubs. Those are the folks that we want to target because they're not for the most part, they're not paying attention to this process. The public, as Peter went through that entire litany of public outreach that we did, and we'll have additional public outreach, but the private property owners, no offense to any of them, but they need to be paying attention. And we had numerous meetings and opportunities for them to weigh in. I think we need to have Urban Harbors focus on the big entities that we've been talking about.
Yeah, the
We'll
one thing
have
we,
more public, and we will have more public forums.
we didn't meet at the Nantucket Yacht Club. We did the Great Harbor. We did the Mattocket Conservation out there at the Admiralty.
Yep.
We didn't meet at the Nantucket Yacht Club. And that was, I think, sort of a miss on our part, given how many people showed up for the thing I went to that Land Council put on there was packed.
So
Well,
we did actually,
let's make sure that they're included in the next public session.
Yeah.
so we did do a brief like questionnaire for people that we got back at that Nantucket Yacht Club event, and we did announce that this process was going on at that event.
I think we need to do something during the summer, because Emily's event was packed. I went to that thing, and Emily's event was just packed with mostly yacht club members. So I think we might get some bang for our buck down there if we did do a session at the yacht club during the summer, which was the difference. It was during, I think, August, if Emily correctly. I thought that was very informative.
I might also add real quickly, and I apologize for interrupting, that if we do leave the plan open until summertime for more public comment, that is beyond the original projected schedule to have the entire plan in for review and
I thought
potential.
we had a couple of years on this. We figured a couple of years.
You guys let Christie talk, he's been.
No, when you're ready.
I thought we had a couple of years to do this. We figured it was gonna take at least 2 years.
No.
We've been at it for a while.
Have we been at it that long? Oh, God. Christie.
No, I was just gonna say with, with an enormous public effort towards all this, coastal resiliency and all the plans, it's critical that you know who your players are, public or private. And I think, it's gonna be very important that public and private decision-making is coordinated as well as, finances are understood, who's paying for what. And I think at some point, the finances are gonna be a huge discussion topic. And with that, I do favor being overly inviting to the private homeowners, especially when the public is doing its part, when you have private abutters, that their effort, their private effort, because we're gonna see private, I like to think of this as private and public money effort. But you're gonna need that component to also be taking part. And I think it is critical that you know who your players are. And if they're not, if you don't really wanna say, you missed the boat, because that component might be critical to the big picture.
Okay, good note. Let the record reflect that Jesse is here now. Jesse, you have your hand up, and then I'll
Yeah,
go to Seth.
I'm sorry I was late. And just so that I know, what's the number one? I see rising sea levels is number 2. What is this topic that we're on, number 1?
We're still on number 1.
I think we touched on.
Okay,
all of it.
cohesion between plans.
You haven't missed anything.
I,
But they are a very big landholder for the town of property along the waterfront now in the AE zone.
I just wanted to say, so I don't know, and I don't know if Leah has already mentioned this, but we're moving into our second phase of design for Washington Street, and a huge component of that is gonna be stakeholder and public outreach. And I guess I'm sure at some point, if it's not right now, that feasibility study for the downtown flood barrier will have that component. I'm just guessing. And but it does kind of, on a, I guess, more macro level, it's really abundantly clear to me that we're gonna have to there has to be, in order for these, for anything to really work, and I'm sure we all know this, but you have to have, there's gotta be a very coordinated effort. And so I don't know what the vehicle for that is, like what is it, the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee? Is it these separate, like, it's Washington Street Work Group, it's the, what is the vehicle that is making sure that, planning is done in a way that, we're all coordinated and like the bulkheads are all the same height and, that it's really important. And I don't know how to mandate, are there things that we can do regulatory wise that can be implemented so that people have to, if they're doing a massive renovation or a total rebuild, that they have to tie into a certain elevation or, come into sync with a plan that we've all endorsed. So there's not all this siloing going on.
Well, that's true. If you get a bulkhead that's 4 feet above water, then you got one that's 2 feet above water. Where's that water gonna go? Seth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think we're getting way off topic here and we're getting a little confused. So just for the benefit of CRAC, this current Harbor Plan Update Committee is a conceptual planning committee. It's our job to take data that already exists, like the data that was developed for the CRP. So for instance, when Jesse talks about the height that bulkheads should be, the CRAC has already looked at that and modeled the right appropriate sea level rise models for Nantucket. So we already have all that data. Or when we talk about what we should be doing with large landowners or private citizens, we already have all that data from the public process we did last summer. Our job now is to coordinate that data and to come up with a conceptual document that talks about what needs to be done for the harbor and how those actions coordinate with the CRAC plan. And just for reference, all 40 of the CRP suggestions, not all 40 of those apply to the harbor. We are looking at the subset that have a direct impact on the harbor, or the harbor has a direct impact on them, I guess I should say. It's our job to take all that data to make a conceptual plan, and then there's going to be a whole nother initiative. That might be another committee like it was last time, or it might be going to an existing committee, or it might just be going to the town select board or natural resources department or somebody to do the implementation. But we're just talking conceptually at this point. We don't have to get every single landowner on board with their thoughts at this point. We need to take the data and put the plan into place and then contact them later. So thank you.
All right, guys, I'm gonna make an executive decision and move off of 1. So at least we can get to the first page. So the next one is rising sea levels.
Okay, so yes, our recommendation is to utilize the coastal resilience plan for flooding and erosion planning to integrate the Massachusetts coastal flood risk model into policies as well as bylaws. We also have an example model wetland bylaw language from the Cape Cod Commission for the committee's review at a later time, which I guess could be used for different types of regulatory enforcement measures, such as bulkhead expansion. Another recommendation is to explore the opportunity for strategic retreat in extreme or high-risk areas through buyouts. I guess another reiteration about developing a stormwater management plan, and another reference to the groundwater sea level rise, or the need for groundwater and sea level rise modeling, as well as, I guess, a connection to historical districts or historical. Anyway, another recommendation from Leah was to join the community rating system of national flood insurance programs, which provides rewards communities as well as policyholders. Providing them a potential with discounts, improving coastal resiliency, but also for the municipality, providing access to expert floodplain experts, conserving resources and an overall safer community. Okay, so I guess taking comments on, this topic is more about where the or how the communities want to, I guess, like or sea level rise within the I guess specifics regarding I guess sea level rise within the harbor plan. Yeah, I guess open to feedback. Yeah.
Holly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention, as far as the community rating systems go, that was something that our consultants recommended when we were going through the Resilient Nantucket Design Guidelines as a recommendation for Nantucket to do. So it's been outlined before, and would highly recommend for us to push that forward through this. Thanks.
Good. Again, Holly, make sure we have that. Send it to Jeff. Anybody else have anything on this section?
I don't have any recommendations, but Alan, I can send you, I have some updated data for sea level rise trends that have happened to present day. So the numbers on the left, I can send you the updated versions of those.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, those were, that's just kind of language, like the kind of the fun facts or hopefully relatable facts around sea level rise for public. And so yes, updated numbers would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was just gonna say that the numbers were kind of the older numbers that are on there. And one thing that I think we at CRAC are careful of is, instead of sometimes for something where there's a, either a regulatory recommendation or something, being careful to put the exact numbers. Even if there's a shorter timeline, of course, for your plan than for the coastal resiliency plan, but because the data changes and there's new information, pointing to a source that is updated, whether it's NOAA or something like that, where there's like, see for the latest in the numbers, see here, because people will be wedded to a particular number. And the numbers are different depending on what scenario you're looking at, obviously, and then the timeline, as well as there are updates periodically. So just keeping that in mind to be fluid with the most current data.
Leah?
I should mention too that the select board have adopted using NOAA's high sea level scenario. So maybe add that into the section. And then, like Sarah had said, NOAA usually updates those scenarios like every 5 years or so.
And if these numbers, there are hard line numbers that we do put in the plan, I would say that these are the numbers as of the publishing of this plan. And they are going to change over time, and for further information, go here.
Yep.
So that we don't get locked in, as you said, into a set of numbers and with nowhere to go to check what the numbers are when somebody reads the plan 6 months from now. Okay, anything else on this section? Oh, we turn the page. Number 3.
So, I guess this is infrastructure protection and prioritization. So in terms of the timelines, the harbor plan is a plan that gets updated on a 10-year timeline, while CRAC's coastal resilience plan looks to 2100 or beyond. Our recommendation with the harbor plan is to adhere to the project prioritization timeline from the coastal resilience plan, as well as the coastal resilience plan update. Another, or also incorporating, I guess potentially new projects of wet and dry proofing and elevating town buildings, such as the harbor, or within the harbor plan area, such as Harbor Masters building, the 37 Washington Street, 16 Broad Street, downtown police station. And then actually, Kim, there's, so instead of that comment for Raise Town Docks to XY, we have I guess, different language from Woods Hole Group with a recommendation to, I can share screen, or I can put it.
You can just leave it up, Alan.
Okay,
sure. I can just read it. So
right.
rather
Thank
than,
you,
yeah, this is Dak Stewart from Woods Hole Group. I spoke to one of our senior coastal resiliency scientists here at Woods Hole Group, and rather than, as Leah just said, and others, rather than stating a direct number for what elevation to construct bulkheads and other elevation to raise to, rather, we should decide, or the town, these groups should decide which sea level rise projection is of the greatest concern to the town, and then raise town dock or other infrastructures to accommodate whatever that projection is. The closer you get in time to that projection, the more accurate it will be, as we know that the data will, as time goes on, get more narrowed down to what truth will be, or the models predict. But for example, revisiting a future projection, or suppose 2050 was the MCFRM. If you don't know that, that's the Massachusetts coastal flood risk model. They've did predictions for 2030, 2050, and 2070. If chosen for 2050, narrow in on what range of elevation should be constructed to for that. When you're near 2050, then start looking towards 2070, rather than jumping immediately to 2070, because that's very far in the future. Models can change. There's unknowns that'll be updated, and then also constructing something to that far in the future could potentially make infrastructure unusable. And in doing things incrementally is the better choice to, have everything catch up at the same time.
Just as an aside, there's no way on this planet we're lifting 16 Broad Street. But I was involved with a project, you might want to look at it, anybody who wants to look at it. I was involved with the pump station down on C Street. And we came up with a baffle, a concrete baffle around the building to keep it from flooding the pump station and knocking out the sewer pump. And it looks so much like the building, because some of the building has concrete and the rest of it's brick, that you wouldn't know that the baffle around the building was not always part of the building. Because that was one of the issues we had to deal with constant flooding down there, and having the pump station keep going and having an historic structure, which is something Holly's been involved with, that the baffle down there looks uncannily like it was already part of the building. So if you want to see how that was handled on a town structure, go down to C Street and take a look at that piece that's around the C Street pump station. Holly?
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to mention that the town has actually been a leader in that project. That's a 1920s C Street pump station, and the baffle that was put on there, and all the flooding mechanisms, flood-proof mechanism that they did, has been utilized not only within our design guidelines, but the consultant who helped us create our design guidelines has used that for an example for municipalities for other type of utility type structures that are historic. And David Gray is well aware of that achievement, which has been phenomenal. But I also wanted to mention, I see this list that we have 37 Washington Street. That's been outlined in the HMP. And I know it's in the CRP, but that's a slab on grade structure. So we're not really going to elevate that structure. That would probably be either gone or maybe a new structure is put there. So I just wanted to make that point, that's probably one of the only very few slab on grade, especially town owned structures. But everything else would need to comply with our Resilient Nantucket. And again, Resilient Nantucket is specifically for structures, not having to elevate a structure that would be, something like Charleston, South Carolina, where it's 8, 9, 10 feet up in the sky. It's taking all those requirements and trying to find some sort of happy medium, because again, contributing structures in Nantucket that goes up to 1975 do not have to meet the substantial compliance section of the building code. So that's why it's very important to look at that guidance. And I will send that to Jeff so he has a link to it. But also we have a toolkit. You're talking about making sure that the average citizen understands what they cannot do for their property, for their person, all that kind of stuff. That was part of our Resilient Nantucket, which was an MVP action grant project. So that is all available on the town's website as well. So we can link that together too. Thanks.
Thank you.
So-
Peter?
Okay, so I'm just looking at number 3 in the second paragraph. Large public desire to protect shared community infrastructure, general willingness to share costs associated with it. That to me, as a member of CRAC, as the chair of CRAC, is screaming support for the coastal resilience districts. That will be 2 articles on the town meeting warrant this year. We don't know if they're going to fly, but somewhere in the column on on the right, we should mention, depending on what happens at town meeting, the use of CRDs to help fund whatever we do in column number 3. At least some way it should be worked in for coastal resilience districts.
What's a CRD?
CRD is a way of, it basically comes down to veterans, but a way of taking a certain area and saying, the example I always use is the Smiths Point neighborhood. And eventually Miller's Bridge is gonna need to be replaced, and the people who have property over there are the ones that are gonna benefit the most from having a new bridge if it doesn't get washed out when the water comes over the dune. So they would pay into that. Of course, Baxter Road's a good
Well, sewer benefit,
but if
they had to do that with the sewer
Yeah.
plan and not why they all had to chip in.
So
That's a
it's,
betterment.
it's, yeah,
It's a way to make an area manageable financing and project wise.
Yeah. Okay. Leah?
For the first recommendation recommendation, I would add in, and to update as risks change, because like we had mentioned, the CRP is a living document and risks are gonna change over time. So something that was, maybe a low priority recommendation in the CRP back in 2021 when the CRP was made, risks may change. For example, Sheep Pond Road, that was a moderate recommendation for priority. And then that obviously had to change to number 1. So just to keep it as a living document and to know that risks are going to change. And then in here too, I don't know if you also want to add that the town has adopted using the high sea level rise scenario. So for planning and building and all of that, to take that into consideration as they're planning to do infrastructure.
Do you have another one on this one, or is that?
No, that's it.
The next one. So, yeah. Any more comments on this one? Okay.
Yeah, what was that thing? I think Alan had a question for Dak, on number 3. I saw something.
Dak chimed in on something.
This was the town dock.
Yeah, that comment, it's Dak again, hello. I did address that.
Okay. All right, we're on to number 4.
Yeah, and one quick note, so it's 2:15. Emily, how much time did you want to talk about the eelgrass management plan?
I mean, honestly, I think 5 to 10 minutes should be plenty.
Okay. So maybe we get through number 4 and then move on?
Great.
Okay.
Okay, let's go for 4.
This is addressing the issue of the issue identified in public comment of private versus public cost, with the understanding that erosion flooding are island-wide issues, but how do you fund it, of course. So our recommendation is to explore potential cost-sharing models, such as like assessments, betterments, develop programs and policies to which homeowners assume risk due to erosion-caused loss of utilities or services, clarify regulatory expectations for private property owners, and then pursue funding opportunities such as increased embarkation fees, Chapter 91 non-compliance penalties, state and federal grants, coastal resilience districts, betterments within climate resilience districts. And also in terms of budgeting, so increase town budget towards coastal resilience projects, currently at $1 million per year, and then hire a dedicated grant writer. And I think we would also probably include other project managers as per Leah's comment.
Through our initial take on this embarkation fee, I think we were all in agreement way back in our first couple of meetings. Something's got to be done about that embarkation fee, about where it goes. It all goes right now to the police station. But how much we're charging, where it goes, what it should be dedicated to. That is something that I had circled and starred in my original group. So I'm going to circle it and star it again.
I think Dave Franzuto has a comment on that too.
Yeah, because it's not going right. Dave?
No, that's never got-
I'll send it again, but I have a write-up that I submitted to this committee before about the embarkation fee and the action items that I feel that need to be included as far as a review committee, increase of the fee, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll send it to Jeff and he can send it back out again rather than me beat the drum again.
Something's got to give. Seth?
Thank you. I agree totally about the embarkation costs, and I've said so at other meetings, but my comment here, this maybe goes under costs and maybe under the education section. And we think about costs a lot, like when an actual implementation is needed. But I think this is maybe what Doug Rose was talking about earlier, or there's a comment that references his name. But there's opportunity to get ahead of some of these issues by providing subsidies for property owners to be proactive. Like if their property is going to become subject to more significant coastal erosion or sea level rise, maybe we pay property owners for moving their houses in advance, or for creating natural solutions or nature-based solutions that could mitigate some of these things. And my other thing probably goes under education, but there's many articles that have been published at this point, looking kind of like at the long-term costs of green versus gray infrastructure. And if you use an appropriate long-term model, almost always the green infrastructure is not only less expensive, but ultimately more effective. So we can't use nature-based solutions for everything. We do need some hard infrastructure for certain specific use cases. But for most property owners, they tend to just go to like, let's build a bulkhead, let's put a coastal engineering structure into place, because that's the easiest thing and the most well-known thing. But ultimately, it actually ends up being more expensive and more disturbing to the environment, that we should be educating people and subsidizing them for using nature-based solutions. Thank you.
Okay. Leah?
I've got two comments for this. So under the first recommendation, it says explore potential cost sharing models. I would also add in and develop procedures or roadmaps for private and public partnerships. And then another recommendation, which is actually part of the select board strategic plan, is to incorporate the CRP recommendations in conjunction with other capital planning.
You're going to be coming back to the next two meetings. That's great. Anybody else have any comments about this section? Okay. Emily?
Not on this section.
All right, so let's hang there for a second. I don't even want to start the next section with this little time left. So I think Emily should go forward now. Before we get there, I'll give the last 10 minutes to Emily, but you guys, we're getting a lot of great information from you guys, particularly Leah, who has notes all over her thing here. Would it be advantageous for all of the CRAC members to send their comments to Leah and then have Leah come to our next meeting? So we can get through this section without all of you having to show up? Would that work for all the CRAC members?
Yeah.
Do I see thumbs up anywhere up there?
I kind of agree with it, but on the other hand,
They can come to the next meeting.
well, no, what I want to say is that ideas come to your head while things are being discussed. You may not think of the thing that you wanted to until you're there. I don't want to make anybody go to another meeting, but I'll certainly be here since I'm on the committee.
All right, we'll be here, Leah, you can come. That's great, because you've got some great notes there. So if anybody wants, if you guys think that you're gonna have more than 2 members show up, then post it for you guys.
Okay.
But our next meeting is when?
April. For what? April. I think in 2 weeks.
Should be April 1st, April Fool's Day.
Oh, great.
Which means it'll be April 2nd, right?
All right, so April, we always meet at 1 o'clock and we always meet in here.
Yeah, so Leah, I can send you the information again, and if you wanted to distribute it to all of the advisory group, feel free, or if you just wanted to come and bring comments, that works too.
Okay.
I'll leave it up to you guys and how you want to handle it, but this has been fantastic, frankly.
I'll offer both. So I'll offer, they can either email me comments or they can show up to the meeting.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, guys.
You can always post it.
Yeah.
And
Don't make form, you don't
break up
call
the
it.
meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, Emily, this is a big deal for all of us. When we got to this section last week or 2 weeks ago, or the one before that, the eelgrass and lack thereof and impact on the eelgrass is a major, major issue. And we are going to, the decision was to pull it out into its own thing. It's been sort of embedded in other sections, but to pull it out into its own section, because it has such a wide ranging impact on the health of the harbor. So Emily wants to talk about having a subgroup. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. And this is something that I know I raised at our last meeting, and I've had some more exchanges with Tara since then and gotten some input from Jeff as well. I think the idea or notion is that reflecting on the last harbor plan update and how it out of it came a recommendation for a shellfish management plan, which was then subsequently produced through a subcommittee and some work by the town, and has really become an integral part of how Nantucket manages its shellfish on the island, that it would be a really great idea to create an eelgrass management plan. And just really briefly, and I know that the town has actually already started some work on this, but I think what an eelgrass management plan would do is it would speak to existing conditions, the location and state of our existing eelgrass beds, the health of those meadows. It would contemplate long-term monitoring strategies and also things like restoration options and opportunities, and really create a framework where the town, other organizations and private entities could come together and collaborate in sort of a real coherent way under the same plan with sort of the same long-term goals and objectives. And I think that will ultimately be important for and helpful for the town and the island. Obviously, eelgrass will be covered, I think, under the natural resources section of the plan, but I from the conversations we've had, I think everyone's supportive of the idea that the harbor plan update could and probably should recommend the creation of an eelgrass management plan. I don't think that plan needs to be created before we finalize our update. I think that we could embed a recommendation to do that into the plan perfectly well. But I also feel a little bit of a sense of urgency to get started working on an eelgrass management plan. So with the understanding that we can still figure out what criteria to include in that recommendation, as far as, if it says that recommends that a subcommittee of appropriate stakeholders join together to draft an eelgrass management plan to be finalized or approved or adopted by some date certain in the future, we can kind of talk about what that language for a recommendation would be. But I really wanted to just put it on the agenda today to see if there was some consensus around taking the next steps towards forming that subcommittee. Maybe coming back at the next meeting, we could maybe hear from Tara and whoever else on what the stakeholders, like what an appropriate group might look like to start working on that on the side. I just don't necessarily want to wait until after we finish the plan and have that recommendation in place to start working on it, if we can be working on it now. So I definitely ask Tara to chime in with any additional thoughts on that, but I just wanted to move things along.
Steve has his hand up. And Sarah has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you. My question is SHAB working on an eelgrass management plan at this point?
No, apparently.
Okay,
Tara?
Hi, thank you. SHAB is not working on an eelgrass management plan at this point. They're currently updating shellfish regulations tomorrow at their workshop. But this is something that the town has been working on in conjunction with the Great Harbor Yacht Club, and we have a scientific advisor, Dr. J.J. Orth, who is from the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, and he did draft a plan, a general plan, for eelgrass management and restoration that just needs to be fleshed out and added to with specific action items, that pertain to Nantucket. So I agree with Emily. It's something we've been talking about, needs to happen sooner than later. We have a lot of people interested in doing restoration work. We just don't have a good way to vet the projects right now. So I think putting together a subcommittee in conjunction with the harbor plan to get going on it is a really great idea. And yeah, so I'm happy to move that forward in any way possible that we can.
Jeff, is that something we should take a vote on so we can figure out how to implement it under the harbor plan? Because we were all appointed. And I'm not sure we have the ability to create a subcommittee through the harbor plan work group. So I think you need to ask the town,
I will get that answer. for
town
the next
admin
meeting.
on that. I'm gonna take a sense of the meeting, Phil,
Absolutely.
Peter,
Yes.
Steve,
Agreed.
Emily,
Yes.
Jesse,
Yes.
Samantha's still here? Yep.
Yep. Yes.
Did I miss anybody up there, Seth?
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, and Seth
Sounds good.
and myself. Okay, so that wasn't a formal vote because we need the information as to how to do it and if we can do it. Because I know the HCC's tried subcommittees, they can't legally do it under their charter.
I'll get that answered.
Okay, so we'll bring it up on the next meeting, but I think I agree with Emily. I really don't want to wait another 6 months to start working on this.
Great.
Thank you very much for bringing that up. And any commissioners' comments? We got 2 minutes.
I
Madam
think,
Chair.
Hold on, Dave. Phil?
I think with Samantha and the Shellfish Association, this would tie in. I know I had previously been on the board that Samantha can probably, certainly has some ideas on this, but this could be one of the areas of focus, because I know you guys are looking for specific projects, right, Samantha?
Of course. I mean, we're always happy, ready, and willing to support, all things relating to shellfish and harbor health. I think Emily and the Land Council with their restoration work is really well suited to maybe take the lead on this, and we're happy to be a supporter. I don't know that we have the infrastructure and bandwidth to take the lead on anything of this magnitude, but again, as always, happy to support in any way we can.
Well, once a plan is developed, I think then we figure out who, where, and how, but we need a plan.
Yeah.
Someone else's hand was up. Dave?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I'm gonna send that information to Jeff again, just to remind everybody. It's the ferry embarkation fee, the second town boat ramp, public fishing pier, the alternative steamship dock, and the support of the harbor master moving to, you can shake your head all you want, Linda. And the support of relocation of the harbor master to a standalone entity. I'm gonna resend that for your consideration. Thank you.
I think I saved it in my computer, but absolutely, we need the Marine Department back to itself.
I have a unanimous vote from the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board to support that recommendation. So that'll also be in my notes, but.
To me, that's critical. That is critical, frankly.
Yeah, we can take a vote.
We're working on that initiative every day.
Yeah, it's gotta happen. Ridiculous. Okay, it is now 2:30 exactly. You want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Phil made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Peter seconded. All those in favor, Phil?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Seth?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Samantha?
Aye.
Myself, and I know you guys have to adjourn also, so hang on a second.
Okay, I need a motion from one of our, 7 members to adjourn the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Yes. Second from Sarah, okay, roll call vote. Christie Kickham,
Aye.
Abby Gimelina,
Aye.
Sarah Boyce,
aye.
Tim Brain,
So he left and Doug,
okay, Doug Rose,
not there anymore.
okay, Gary Beller,
He's together.
all right, and the chair votes aye.
Control your committee. We have total control.
We go all the way to the last gap here.
We don't let it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Happy
everyone.
spring.